Good afternoon. My name is Bryan Hahn, and I'm with Intellitrade, where we've been providing systems for managing and distributing financial data for almost 20 years, including open banking solutions. Um, our topic today is the future state of credit unions with respect to technology and innovation. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce our two panelists, Sean VanHandel, CIO of CoVantage Credit Union, and Jason Cain, CTO of Kellogg Community Credit Union, and also founder of ShiftMates. Um, Sean, Jason, can I ask you to introduce yourself and your organization briefly and provide some background as to your role and how it relates to technology and innovation and the topics we'll be discussing today? Sean, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so it's Sean VanHandel, CIO for CoVantage Credit Union based out of Antigo, Wisconsin. We're about a $4 billion credit union, really digitally focused. Obviously, we're mission-led credit union. We serve all regardless of wealth, but really, kind of engaging in open banking. Obviously, it's in a technology area. It starts with that, but really ends up in the business realm, which is getting that value of the credit union and going through that and expressing it out to the world and to our members in particular. But I'll let Jason introduce himself before we kind of tackle the topics.
Hi, Jason Cain, Chief Technology Officer with Kellogg Community Credit Union. We are about $1 billion credit union that's located in Battle Creek, Michigan, and yeah, we're grappling with all of the elements around data, privacy, security, and then how do we best serve our members into the future.
Great. Thank you. Looking forward to our conversation today. We're going to be covering four topics that touch on the topic of mission proofing your credit union. We're going to be talking about innovation and future proofing, aligning strategy with the mission. Third topic of where does open banking fit in with all of this, and finally we'll get some recommendations from the experts who have many years of experience in implementing technology and innovation. But before we start, I'd like to ask, I'll start with Jason. As the title states, mission proofing your credit union, we're going to be talking about mission and strategy. What's the difference? I'd like to provide some background for the audience as to what is actually meant when we're talking about mission in the context of credit unions.
So the mission of a credit union is we are people helping people, and it's the common man helping the common man with all things related to their finances, to life changes, life challenges, looking for opportunities to look to grow their wealth, protect them, help them with savings, and unlocking credit worthiness and opportunities through that. When I think about the elements of strategy and our mission, if you're doing it right, your strategies align with the mission, align with who you're serving and how well you're serving. And you are looking to shape your organization to better serve those members and businesses individually. So you can do that by a multitude of strategies and a multitude of approaches to accomplish that. Given that you are a credit union, to try to serve all things for everything, it's probably going to yield long term an outcome that is not aligned with what you would like to see as far as an organization. The more that you can start to look at what your niche market is, look at what you do well, and look at ways to better serve your members and organizations within your communities and your collective environment that you serve. Ultimately, that's going to have a better impact and a more meaningful impact in the lives of those that you are serving. Again, people helping people.
Great. Thank you for that background. So it's about keeping the members in focus and adapting to their needs and expectations. Sean, anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think Jason kind of put that in the right way. I think the core mission of all credit unions, obviously, is to serve their members, by providing the financial services. The member focus differentiates us between other FIs. Obviously, I think the financial inclusion, community involvement, those types of things. And we'll talk more about open banking and the impact of that, and how we focus on getting those low rates out to our members, the fewer fees, things like that.
Okay, I'm going to move on to our first topic, innovation and future proofing. Having been in financial services for some 30 years myself, I've learned that data is a common denominator and driver of innovation in financial services. But when implementing innovation, it's important that we align it with the mission, the strategy, and have clear objectives of what our intentions and where we're going with that. The pace of innovation has been really mind-blowing over the last 3-4 years. Jason, I'll start with you. How important is innovation in the context of strategy for credit unions? And what is your perception of where credit unions are currently with respect to technology and innovation?
Innovate or go by the wayside is really where we're at in this environment. We all are technology companies, and there are certain components that you need to be able to have well established, to be able to sit on top of as the foundation to deliver your services through these technologies. So when I think about innovation, it's experimentation. It's using your metrics to prove the validity of it. It's identifying your beachhead market, and then really working closely with your end users to unlock and understand their problems, and then develop solutions or innovate in a way that solves those problems. It simplifies it, it makes it so it's easy to understand, and it's embedded in the lives in the workflows that they currently use on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. Sean, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think
you want to add?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's immense pressure on, especially credit unions in the space. FIs in general, I think have felt pressure over the last 3 to 5 years. The economic environment that we're in, the pressures from a digital standpoint to make things frictionless. We've got a big Gen Z generation that's coming up they want that experience, and I think the pressure is there for us to be constantly innovating. Along with innovation, I think another big thing is finding standardized ways to approach financial data access. Things like that are very important going forward. It helps us to be more competitive in the environment, but I do think that a lot of the pressures that we're faced with are pretty unique for credit unions, partly because we're having, the fintechs who we've also had partnerships with now are taking a slice of the pie that we've traditionally done. There's regulation that's, constantly we have to keep up with. And so when we talk about innovation, I think it has to be done in a manner that we're moving towards more of a standardized way to be able to get that financial data out or access to that data. But I think it's going to be a challenge going forward, especially for the smaller institutions. The difficulties, I think, are probably a little bit more extreme, but definitely something that credit unions have to keep their eye on is innovation.
You've mentioned quite a few topics just now, and getting those aligned. What you also mentioned Gen Z, and I'd like to get your thoughts on what are the threats of not keeping pace with the expectations of the different generations, because as a credit union, you'll have members that are just exiting high school, going into college or starting their first job, and then you've got folks that will have been retired already, and are in a completely different life situation. So, what are the threats of not keeping pace, and how do you meet those expectations?
Yeah, I think the expectation is pretty simple. I was at a conference probably about a month ago, and they had mentioned that you literally have 15 seconds to capture their attention on a lot of the Gen Z. And I think part of it is that they've grown up with a lot of this technology, so they're expecting it to just work. They want simplification, they want ease, they want speed. Those are really the probably the three core pieces that they're looking for. But they also want the ability to pull the information together, to consolidate it. They don't want to have to go into multiple apps to get the same information. So things like that. They want a secure, standardized way to, aggregate their data. They want to be able to look at that personalization. So they want to know what's in it for me, right, from that standpoint. But I think that challenge is tremendous in the industry that's really fractured in a lot of the standards. It's also fractured in, access controls from that standpoint. I'm happy to see, that across the industry, a lot of these things are becoming standard practice. OAuth 2 is a good one, I think, but that will help us going forward. But I do think that, the challenges are, like I said, are going to be there from a technology standpoint. Also on the back end, understanding that demographic is going to be very important going forward. You're going to have one of the largest transfers of wealth in history, and it's going to go into that generation. We have to be prepared to offer services across the spectrum. You can't just do banking, right? You can't just have a checking account. You're going to have to be able to do investment service. Some credit unions are talking about crypto. I think there's other ways that we're going to have to expand our services and support of what we do of that member. It may even go to a health support. How do we support them in that way? And I know that sounds like a crazy concept, but being open to additional services, still in the model to serve all regardless of wealth, but offering those services to our members, and especially that Gen Z generation.
Hey, Jason, I'd like to move on to aligning strategy with the mission itself, and we have a lot of themes and topics on this slide, which all touch on either the mission, strategy, innovation, or all three, and with the data strategy at the heart of it all. What is the importance of owning your own data strategy? And how does that fit in with aligning technology and innovation with the mission, given all the other topics that boards and management at credit union have on the table currently?
Well, data strategy, data is the nucleus of it all. It's everything that is technology revolves around that data. We're analyzing the data to make sense of it. We're adding protections in the data. We're surfacing it through systems. We're interacting with it. We're collecting it. We're modeling off of it. So data is everything. It's the foundation of it all. And if you think about the different life stages that you had mentioned, you can solve those problems for those individuals by understanding their data. Where if they are just fresh out of college, how are you organizing and presenting your products and services to truly solve the problems that they're going through in that life stage? When they go into their 30s or even 40s, you're entering into a different life stage and your problems become a little bit different. But there are commonalities in the way people and humans progress throughout these life stages. When you get to your retirement age, you have different problems and different services that you're looking to procure. Through the analysis of that data, you are able to really position your organization your products, your services to fit the needs of the individuals when they're going through that. And if you're doing a great job, you can even start to predict those needs, and you can be at the forefront, and then make the data actionable, make it so it's seamless, make it so it's easy to use. And that's where open banking starts to become that layer, where you first start with your data, you organize your data, you make sure it's in the cloud, and then you open it up through an API, and then you start to embed it throughout your services. If you look collectively across the board, all technology, modern technology companies have these layers throughout their organization. Until you get that data right, until you get it organized, until you get it positioned in a way that you need to, you're really going to have a difficult time to start to leverage it in new technologies like AI, large language models, predictability. To get the basis, you have to have that data organized in a way that these complementary technologies can understand and actually utilize it in an accurate manner.
Okay, moving on to our next theme, and Sean, this talking about data, that this flows into where does open banking fit in with all of this? Data strategy encompasses many systems and pieces or departments within the bank, be it the core system, data quality and enrichment, data governance platforms, data warehouse, marketing, automation, business intelligence, and analytics. How do you get there? I mean, we're talking about the actual data strategy first, and then open banking will move on to that as a part of that.
Yeah, and I think part of it starts with kind of building, as Jason kind of described, that, data-driven culture, and being able to utilize that data for the personalization, that type, whether it's optimizing your risk management or your, building a custom product for someone, that type of experience, I think, is important from a data perspective. But when you start looking at open banking and what it offers, and this is where I think that there's some growth in the credit union space, and to be able to see this as an opportunity rather than a threat or something that's compliance driven. There's a lot of people that are in the credit union space that feel that way, and I certainly acknowledge that. And there's definitely some legitimate points around that. But I think when you start looking at it as an opportunity, it's not just about outflow of data; it's about inflow of data as well, and gathering a financial picture that is holistic of the member rather than just the slice that the credit unions have today, right? So I may have those ATM transactions. I may have, that they're using a P2P solution, but it's really about gathering the information that we don't have, that may be at another institution. I happened to see a product about 2 weeks ago that kind of changed for me a lot of the thinking portion of that and pulling in the data part. So if they may have something on their trade line that says, hey, I've got a loan at Chase Bank and it's at 8%, how can we react to that? How can we offer our services and our value as a credit union for, obviously, maybe it's a lower interest rate product that we can use to compete with that product and offer that in their time of need when they're auto shopping, for example, or they're looking for a consumer loan. So it's really about meeting the member in their time of need with our value and our value proposition. And I think that's true of all credit unions, right? So it's really looking at open banking as an opportunity, I think, in my mind. So.
Yeah, you've led into actually the next topic very, very well. Where does open banking fit in with all of this? You've already addressed that. Where would you say credit unions currently stand as to their discussions and deliberations to get started with open banking? And what are some of the reasons, the how and why? We'll talk about some of the use cases after that. But Sean, do you want to continue with that? And then I'll hand over to Jason to provide some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most credit unions are probably in the position where they're waiting for the regulation to kind of the rule to balance out, to figure out where it's at, right? We don't know. There's a little bit of flux right now. But I do think, there's market forces that are behind this too, and you've got to pay attention to those market forces. I don't think a lot of credit unions are really looking at that. In fact, I attended a conference that, there was a big discussion about one of the vendors, and they were very supportive of it. But a lot of people were like, what is this 1033, where it's headed? So I do think there needs to be more attention paid to it, just from the aspects of what does it bring to the table. Then I think that you have to dive into the nuances of it. Obviously, there is some timelines associated. So if it does go through, what am I held to a timeline? But I wouldn't put all your focus there. I'd also put the focus on what benefits am I going to get as an organization if I use that. How will personalized finance, come to fruition? How will we do better target marketing and communication to our members? Building, more of that transparency with our member to understand their whole financial picture. So I think that's really, I see as the opportunity. And I think that word has to spread throughout the credit union space. But I'll let Jason give his thoughts too as well.
Very well said, Sean. It is not a technology. It is not a compliance. This is an evolution of financial services. We're not in an environment any longer where you're encapsulated within your own institution and solving problems within your own institution. Technology has enabled a macro aspect has put pressure on the need to be able to open up your environment, open up your services, and do it in a way that is streamlined and fluid with the existing processes and the existing workflows that individuals use on a day-to-day basis. You look at things like the ability to get an auto loan and how that originates now. It really originates where the buyer is, right? And that's typically inside the dealership. You're seeing credit card issuance starting to originate where the point of sale is at, and the new credit cards and how those credit cards are issued. So how do you provide your services in a way that you're in line with those aspects? I think when I look at credit unions, we are behind the eight ball a lot, but we have the power of the collective. I think that's a true differentiator when it comes to credit unions, where we always come together, we share, we collaborate to get to this next stage. It's going to take a level of collaboration. It's going to take a level of just bringing and aggregating all of the data, making it anonymized so you can create data models and you can create experiences that match the big banks, that match the big tech companies, and allow you to compete in this space, to create the negotiation power to start to negotiate with these larger institutions to ensure credit union has a seat at the table. It all starts with opening up your environment. Either your environment's going to be opened up through other partnerships like your digital banking or your core provider, where you may not have a vertical understanding of who's accessing your data and when it's accessing. Solutions like Plaid, MX, they're already accessing your data. It's already aggregating to other systems. Sean had mentioned earlier, making sure that you have the value when the opportunity strikes. So having that understanding of when that data is accessed, how can you shape and innovate your products and services to be able to be relevant, to be able to solve those individuals' problems. Again, I cannot stress enough that these are foundational technologies that must be in place to be a tech company, and you are a tech company.
Okay, great. A lot of insights here about aligning data strategy with the mission, keeping members in focus, not waiting for regulation, but looking for that ROI, that return on investment, which is going to answer the expectations of members and meet growth needs. To wrap it up, any recommendations? On the slide here, we've got some open banking use cases and primary value drivers. What is your recommendation just for, say, a credit union thinking about getting started with open banking? What are the first steps?
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah. Go
So
ahead.
I like Sean's comment on culture. For me, the first step is to get the mindset and get the people moving in the right direction with understanding change, understanding their role in that change. The way you handle change throughout your organization is a consistency. So maybe adopting things like an EOS model or Scrum methodologies will give you a framework to be able to create a strategy and then a way to be able to execute it and define it of what roles and responsibilities you need it. So that would be foundational. And then really do a self-assessment. Are you good at technology? Are you not good at technology? Do you need to find certain partners to be able to help you? Is this something that you can roll up your sleeves and accomplish? And if you can roll up your sleeves and accomplish it, should you, right? Are you going to have a differentiator in the market that this is going to be my innovative solution to the market? If it is, if it's your special sauce, absolutely develop that, and it'll allow you to continue to refine it or find a partner that can help you develop that. If it's not, I would recommend offloading that and getting the right partners so they can be along the journey with you in a way that their success is really in partnership with your success, and they're not just in it for the quick dollar to be able to get out. Choosing that right partner is a key aspect. And know that you have to start small. Like if you start to look at all of these technologies, there's a lot of complexity, and a lot of people, when they're selling it to you, they're selling it to you in a way that there is a lot of complexity to it, and then they sell it to you that there's fear of security and access, which all of those do have a reality to it. But with that self-assessment, it will gauge you into the direction that you should take. Take small steps, be focused, be persistent. You're going to have failures, learn from those failures, have quantitative measurements to be able to understand if those innovations are successful. Sometimes failing quickly, sometimes you have to swallow the humble pill, but sometimes failing quickly is a good thing. So it allows you to redirect your resources into something that actually can yield that value for not only your members, but you as the institution as well.
In conclusion, Sean, anything you want to add to that? Any recommendations on, say, types of use cases, applications, or tips for organizations looking to get started?
Yeah, I think you have to look at the compliance as kind of the floor and the strategy as the ceiling, right? From that standpoint, and I think pulling that together is something that you have to focus on, and you have to start obviously with what I mentioned a little bit about the culture, but also the understanding that the 1033 rule, whether it passes or not, is still going to it's still going to be there. Open banking is the direction that we're headed. I think the market forces will drive it that way. But I think getting your data in order is probably one of the first steps I would attempt to, is understanding what data you're going to be giving out, understanding some of the requirements around 1033. And I would use that as kind of a standby. Looking at FDX would be another one. But I do think, the pieces that do look at that, or the credit unions that do look at that first and look at those pieces, are really going to have an advantage when they jump to that from that standpoint. So just like I said, looking at that more as the baseline, the compliance piece, and saying, okay, our strategy really, this is where we want to go from that standpoint. So.
Great. I think we're at the end of our time today. Thank you very much for your insights, Sean and Jason. It sounds like now is the best time to get started in thinking about it and looking at your strategy, aligning that with the mission with respect to both data and open banking. It also sounds like open banking is here to stay. I've said it before. The toothpaste is out of the tube and there's no putting it back in. Open banking will evolve into open finance and provide credit unions and their members with many opportunities, new user experiences, more seamless user experiences, and more secure experiences. So if you haven't done so yet, might be a good time to start thinking about it. Thank you, everyone, for your interest. Below are QR codes if you'd like to connect and carry on the discussions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.